Welcome everybody to week 2 power rankings for Team Tour 7.5. I want to preface this by saying that power rankings this week were like super difficult. It's so hard to rank teams that are this close, especially this early on where the records are kind of hard and like one weird game or set can like swing like a whole ranking. So I just wanted to preface that. Coming in at 18, back-to-back weeks, I'm sorry, Jiggy Himmons and the Sirius Williams at his Pikes team. They moved to 0-2. They lost their set again this week to 100 Geckos. Just kind of another spot where, they kind of just got destroyed in all the sets except two again. Kind of what happened last week. Again, this team doesn't really have enough depth. Pikes, I will say, has gotten better. He is doing good. But Draco still has a long way to go until he's back in form. Although, again, he is getting better. I will say his boards and the way he was playing did look a lot better versus Damon. That being said, still, I just don't think it's going to be enough. And I still think on paper right now they do have the worst team. Right now, it feels like to win a week, they really need Katarba, Banana, and Pikes to all pull something out. Because right now, Draco still just isn't quite there. And same thing with Jiggy. He's just been really struggling as well. And I think, again, I don't really think Jiggy has like a repertoire of weeklies, and the way it's constructed, he has to play weekly a lot of the time. So, yeah. Coming in at 17, 100 Geckos is Markoto's team. They dropped one spot after losing last week, moved to 0-2. Again, they kind of just got dominated in all the points this week. Not really any close ones except, of course, Markoto did be sincere, but outside of that, none of the sets were particularly that close. And the first week they also lost. The first week it was a little bit closer, but they lost to Hop's team, who I think on paper did look kind of weak and very predictable in their matchups. And Markoto's team lost some pivotal ones in the first week. So I think after just a really bad loss second week, not a lot of teams have lost 4-1 this season. I think it's only fitting for them to be in 17 here. They just don't have enough. They're constructed very awkwardly. And I don't know. I think the way they ended up drafting is just not turning out well. Hopefully they can bounce back next week. I know they already are up 1-0. Which brings me to another thing I want to say is we're not accounting for any sets from week 3 or on. This is only covering week 1 and 2 sets. We'll cover all that other stuff in the next week of power rankings, pretty much. Coming in at 16, Dr. Doom and the Doombots, they also moved down 2 spots. They were in 14th last week, down to 16. This team is very awkward. They have to rely a lot on a couple different things. The first thing is they need Coke and Sag to continue to dominate in their packs. And since Coke and Sag are really good 2 and 4th players, that is why I do have them over the other 2 teams, who I don't think have as much dominance. But the main issue, I think, is Dune, I think, still is going to struggle. He's kind of predictable on what pack they put him on. I will say they did do a mix-up this week, so we'll see how that pays off for him. But I think that right now it's kind of just Coke and Sag, and then they kind of almost have to pray for Pigs to win. I know Drizzy is still practicing, still getting better, but he has not done amazing so far this season. 0-2 start. It's, again, all their wins so far have come from Coke and Sag. The other 3 people are 0-6. So, we'll see how it turns out. But right now, with only Coke and Sag getting wins and the rest of their team kind of losing in spots where, it's either kind of tough for them to win or like a set like Pigs United versus Nixer, which came onto the wire, but that's a set you need Pigs to win in a week like this. Because, he might even be a favorite in that set. So I think I will say, to give them some credit, they have had to play 2 of the best teams in the league so far, if not the 2 best teams in the league. So that is a silver lining, is you've had a very tough schedule. But this is a tough conference. There's not a free week at all in this conference. Every team is good. And I think right now it's looking really tough for this team to make it because they have to play 5 really good teams in this conference. And they have to, get second, third in this conference, and it's going to be a lot of tough teams, a lot of tough weeks. So with the combination of being in a tough conference, losing sets, and really having only Coke and Sag so far win sets, this is as high as I could have put them, I think. Coming in at 15, this is Crying in the Club. They were in 15 last week. One of the few teams that stayed in the same position. This is Equi's team, 0-2. I had them over the other teams because I do have some more faith that they can bounce back. But, with a rough start and a weird team construction, this is why I had to put them at 15. I will say, what's different with this team than the other D-tier teams is they've been very close losses in their weeks. They could, this team could easily be, top 10 or, top 8 if these things change. Like if Chip wins Game 7 versus Blanket, or if New Skills beats Goose, or if Equi beats Violet Citizen. Like, these sets have been so close in some of the spots, and they've just lost all the close sets that they kind of needed to win. So this team could easily be 2-0 and they would be higher, but you have to take it what it is. They lost to 2 teams. And their roster construction is just kind of weird. They have Equi, Deep Skills, and Yin Yang, who are all players who prefer to be Pack 1 players. I know Equi is not a bad Pack 2 player, but he got 4-0'd, I think it was, by Bleb. Maybe it was 3, but I think it was best of 7. Got beat by Bleb. So with a team that's kind of constructed weird, they all want to play Pack 1. They don't really have a whole lot of multiple packs, and losing these close sets. I think that makes them at 15. Again, I think I do give more, hope they can bounce back opposed to the 3 teams below them. But, it's kind of hard to put them any higher than this, I think. So now moving into our C tier teams. Again, these are, teams I think could try to get to the wild card, or, maybe could jump up in the top 2 spot. But, right now. Coming in at 14, this is a Min in the Mirror. This is Hiru's team. 0-2. This team has the worst set differential. They moved down 4 spots. Here's my little explanation. If we're basing this purely, of course, off results, then this team would be way lower. They are 2-7. They have not played one of their sets. We're still waiting on, I believe it is Hiru versus OG in week 2. But again, that set doesn't really sway much of my opinions either way. This team I have more confidence in. Like, looking on paper, this is one of the best teams coming into the season. And I have them in C for a couple reasons. One, I still think they are a good team on paper. They have a lot of talent, and 2, I think, second reason, again, same idea kind of with the Doombots, is they're in a very tough conference and they've had to play 2 of, if not the best team, the best, if not some of the best teams in the league. So, they've had a very tough schedule. And the third thing is, I think a big issue so far with this team is I think their matchups have been really bad. I think if we look purely based on matchups and how they've gone, I'm kind of confused on why Hero has done what he's done. I feel like he's put some people in rough spots. Going back to Beast after losing 3-0 in week 1, putting him back on pack 2, I think is very questionable. So, same thing with, throwing Kadi into the weekly pack when they're probably going to go all in the weekly is also very questionable. And while I like Hiru, I think that, I don't think his matchups have been very good so far this season. I think they're putting themselves in a lot of spots to get value traded, not giving themselves great chances to win. And I think it's a big issue. So those are the 3 reasons why I think they can turn it around. And I don't have them in D tier, even though they have a poor record. So, we'll see how it turns out. This week, I do know they changed their matchups a little bit. We'll kind of see. But, again, this is a tough conference. It's not a lot of leniency. It's never going to be a free week. And, with not a lot of leniency, it's going to be kind of rough. But they could bounce back. But so far, the best I could put them is bottom of C with their set differential and their actual results. Coming in at 13, this is the team that dropped the most. This is Violet Citizens team. Team started, but also the other backs. This team is super hard to rank. 1-1. They've moved down 7 spots. But that's not... They moved down 7 spots, but it's not as big of a difference as you think. Because all the teams are super close. And, I do think that it was just rough. It's very hard to rank this team. They beat Equi's team in the first week. and by a very close margin. And then this week they won, they lost, and they lost pretty bad. To a team that I don't think is like amazing. And that's a big reason why I moved this team down. Is they kind of got destroyed. Hedges, Pag-G, and Light all kind of dominated their sets, and then Edom even brought that citizen to the final game. So I had to kind of move this team down because again, ImJustTylerTV Capybara is a team that I don't think is amazing on paper, but I think just looking at the Citizen's team on paper, they have some weak spots. Bud Citizen is a good player, don't get me wrong, but he's not like a super, super dominant player. And this team, again, not a lot of pack versatility. And, this team is going to rely a lot on Oscar being a very, very good Pack 1 player. And while he is a good Pack 1 player, he's going to have to be, a next level, top tier guy who can beat Hedges consistently and beat all these other people consistently. Ernie's also in another spot where, he practiced a lot on Pack 1, and, he's got a little Pack 2 experience, but he's not amazing. He got, 4-0'd by Pac-G, and then, can you really trust him every week on weekly? You don't really know. So, this team is relying on a lot more than most other teams, and I just think in terms of on paper and the results, this is as best as I could put them. They could have, again, like I mentioned earlier, lost to Equi's team in week 1, which I think, again, is another thing that's not great on paper. So I think, if you're this team, you would kind of want a little bit better of a record between the two teams that you've played. Coming in at 12, roll, win, repeat, which is Geo's team. We've down 3 spots. So this team, this is a good team, on paper, and that's why I still have them high. I still think this is a good team. I think it's a combination of things. They've had some tough matchups. They've had some unlucky scenarios. They've been very close in a lot of the weeks and just not pulled through. This is a team I wish I could put higher. I think they're a really good team on paper. But in terms of results, this is as high as I could put them. Week 1 they played, and Gio's Pack 4 has looked pretty solid. He's had pretty good results with it, even though he's lost both of his sets. He's brought both the game 7s. He's done what he can, and week 1 they lost 3-2 in 2 crucial swing sets, and then again they lost 3-2 in 2 crucial swing sets. The same people, Gio and Scooty Fan, losing crucial last games to win the week, and again 1 game could have turned it around. I think it's a great team on paper. I think they're very solid. They got a lot of people later than they probably should have gone. I think Gio drafted well. He's putting his team in a good position to win, I think, most weeks, and they just haven't been able to quite pull it out. But again, I put them above a team like this team because I think they are better on paper, and they've had tougher matchups, and they could have won those tougher matchups. So that is why I'm putting them over a team like, Developed Citizens. But I can see the argument either way. Remember, these are broken into tiers, so I could really see all of the teams in the same tier flip-flopping. So, moving to 11th, a team that moved up a lot, Karma's Kittens. This is Tita's team. This team is very weird because, last week we had them in 17th, second to worst team in the league, and then they come out and they beat the number 1 ranked team on week 2. So this team is very hard to rank. It's hard because you don't want to overrate them after 1 week, but then they beat a team that was number 1 in the rankings. So how do you really balance it? This is where I felt best balancing wise is, they got a very good win, which, the teams below them have not gotten. But again, they're still a little weak on paper, so I can't put them quite as high as the other teams. And they did get some favorable wins here. So this team is a very awkward team to me. I love Catan, but from what I've been hearing, Catan is struggling a lot. They seem like they've not won a game yet in teams where they've had tough opponents though. So I'm gonna give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. They have had tough opponents. We'll see what they do this week versus Dune. That's gonna be a big decider on how strong they think Catan is moving forward. But they got a good win. T just got a huge win against Venus. So the big reason too why I had them rated low last time is I think the team is constructed a little weird, and they needed Titus to be able to learn another pack and be very good on it. And it seems like Titus has been getting a lot better at Pack 4. He got a good win over Venus. He was not a bad Pack 4 player. Um, and I do think that T-Disc being able to play Pack 4 will be a big help to this team that, kind of looked weak in that era before. Um, because, if you have XRB, who's a great Pack 1 year player, you have Slap who can play Pack 2 or 3, and you have T-Disc, and if he can be a good, top 5, top 10 Pack 4 player, then that will help them set up their team very, very good. Because, Karma and Katan can kind of rotate in the other spots. So that is another reason why I moved this team up. Can't go too much higher because they still have some question marks for sure. But I think this is a good spot for this team. They got a good win, and if they keep winning, they'll keep going up. So good team overall. Coming in at number 10, ImJustTylerTV up 3 spots. They are 1-1. We talked about this team a little bit in this set. They got a nice win over about Citizens team, and they played pretty. They got some nice wins. So I had to put them over the Citizens team. Week 1 they played a tough team. Team that hadn't really scaled yet, but everybody kind of knows they had. It's definitely not going to be an easy week when you play them. It was very close again. One game, multiple sets. Another reason why I try to give more credit to people who do bring it to game 7s, and because when you get to a game 7 or a game 5 in a tournament like this, like so much of the time it's gonna come down to just hitting when it matters, right? So I think that I have to give a little bit more credit in those spots. But that being said, I could have put them higher because again they are only 1-1, and I think on paper they do look a little bit weaker on average than some of the other teams, but they're still not a bad team. They've had 2 solid results, and I think this is a great spot for them. Towards the top of C tier, I could definitely see this team being one of the 2 wildcard teams that makes it into the playoffs, or maybe getting like second in this conference or something like that. Very possible. So I feel like this is a great spot for them. 1-1, they're right there, towards the middle of the pack. So I think this is a good spot. And if they, it seems like they're gonna look like they're kind of locked into these 3 spots shown right here, and they're gonna be flip-flopping cases in E-Dub. So my only other worry is maybe they become a little bit too predictable. They don't really have another Pack 4 player, and then Pack G is a Pack 2 only guy, so that's a little worrisome. Is it's probably going to come down to a lot of weeks just trying to have Hedges win Pack 1. That's probably what it comes down to a lot of these weeks, because Light is a good Pack 4 player, and they're going to need a lot to go right, and they're going to be predictable. So it's fine to be predictable if you have good enough players on your team to have the skill diff and win a lot of weeks. But just something to monitor moving forward. Coming in at 9th, the top of C tier, I have 100 Geckos. This 100 Geckos. This is FBL's team. They did technically move down a spot, but I think that's just from other teams rising. This team I look at the exact same as I did from last week. So it's not a real, they were at the top of C last week, and they're at the top of C this week. I don't think anything has really changed in my opinion. They beat a bad team. Still gonna beat them, of course. You can only play who's in front of you. But they took, they got the job done. The reason I can't put this team a little bit higher is because I think there is still some question marks. Like a lot is hovering around FBL. Is he gonna be able to step it up? And he's been struggling a lot with the game and all that. So we'll see if he's gonna be able to step it up. We got Damon, good player. Month is a weird case where he played really good week 1. Took record the distance. Then lost on Pack 3. So the question is he going to be able to, play packs that aren't Pack 1? And if he's going to stay on Pack 1, is he going to be able to beat those other middling seeds or even take some games off the top seeds? We don't know. Maybe not. Crocs is a good player. It's a little bit weird because he's a good Pack 4 player. But right now, with the team needs, it's like he's probably either going to be on 4 or Pack 2 a lot of the time. And I don't think they have a lot of confidence in him on Pack 2. So maybe it's where they become predictable. But he is a really good Pack 4 player, so there's no hate to that. But yeah, just overall, good team. Beldevat seems like he's been doing pretty good on the weeklies. So I think this week will definitely be a test for both these players, Flame and Beldevat. We'll talk about Flame later. Because I think this will definitely be both of their biggest competitions so far. I think they've been better than the other 2 people that they've played. by a decent margin. So this will be a huge test week to see where Build at and where Flame is at. So we will see that moving forward. But yeah, just good team, solid results. They did lose week 1, so I can't put them too high, but I feel about the same as I did last week with them. That's why they're in pretty much the same spot. It's a solid team, but they have some looming stuff going on with FBL. His skill level right now, and yeah. Coming in at number 8, this is the B tier now. We have Super Auto Rangers, a team that dropped 5 spots. And honestly, it doesn't feel like they dropped 5 spots. To be fair, this team was still in the same tier as they were before. They were in B tier last week. Just more teams were in B tier because we didn't have enough results. So they're still in the same tier. I just think it's a combination of they lost this week, and there's some teams that jumped up, which is why they're in 8th. They lost to, again, another team that's not amazing on paper, but they've been doing really well, so, you got to give them their credit in that aspect. And, again, couple question marks with this team. They have, Fernandes, who I think, is going to struggle a lot. He's going to have to either be their pack 1 or their weekly player. I think he is one of the weaker pack 1 players in this tournament. So that kind of forces him, okay, we got to put him on weekly. And then the question is, okay, well, is he going to grind enough to be able to learn the weeklies and be good on the weeklies? We don't really know. Again, we're not counting this into factor, but, either way, I think that it's, he's in a very weird spot with the team that he's on and their needs. And he's going to have to probably be playing the weekly a lot, I would assume, which kind of puts their team in a weird position. Unless they want to start using him as more of a throw spot, we'll kind of see how that turns out with their matchups in the future. But this is still, they're a good team on paper. I think Pooh, Bert, Rek, and Cheesemaster are all good players. There's a reason this team was rated so high last week, and I think they are still a good team. Even though they lost, it was 1 game away from the team being 2-0 and probably rated 3, 4, 5 spots higher. But they're still a good team. Bert, though, he did lose to Phillip, which isn't great. He should have probably beat Damon in week 1, but there's a bunch of controversy going on with that one. So, I think Bert is a good player. I think Pooh is a good player. I think this team is good, and that's why I have them in the B tier. I think they are a good team. But, being 1-1, most of the teams above them are 2-0, and have maybe, they lost to a team that I can't really put this team over a team like Flip's team, because they pretty much played seed for seed, or not seed for seed, but they played main pack for main pack most of the way down and won. Another thing that interesting is, I think kind of interesting how Poobles did matchups this week. Worth noting, because you kind of should know at this point what Flip's team is gonna do. They don't have a lot of mix-ups. This is pretty much going to be their lineup every single week, barring something crazy. And then the way risking it just felt very awkward from Poobal's perspective, because I feel like if you flip Rek and Fernandes and just play Fernandes into Flip, and then Rek probably has good odds to beat Hop, maybe they thought Rek was a super big favorite over Flip. I didn't think so, but maybe they thought so. But I think there was definitely some ways they could have constructed these matchups to be a little bit more favorable for themselves. But I don't know, maybe it was fine. But just something to monitor going forward is how they're doing matchups and when they decide to go Rek on pack 1 versus Rek on pack 4. Are they going to use Furnish in the pivot spot, or are they only going to play 1 in the weekly? Something to monitor moving forward with this team. Coming in at 7, a huge jump team. From C tier to B tier, they moved up 5 spots. Magnificence. This is Flip's team. A team, again, I notably ranked very low during the preseason. And I think rightfully so. I don't regret any of the rankings I did. But I think there's a couple things with this team. This team is in an interesting spot because I think they have Hop, Phillip, Flip, and Grouchy, who are all, pretty solid at their packs. They're pretty good. And can, win on any given time. A couple worries. Worry number 1, Mirko is in a very similar spot to somebody like Buga. Buga is, a decent back two player, but he's not amazing. But he's the worst player on their team, and he's got to stay kind of on one pack for whatever reasons that the team might have. And Mirko's in a very similar spot where it's gonna be kind of predictable. They might be able to value trade him, and I love Mirko. He's a great guy. But right now, I mean, he doesn't have a great track record in the Pac 2 mirrors. So, I'm a little worried that this team might be a little too predictable and maybe can get value traded. But they have good results so far. They've won 2 good weeks. Flip is winning super pivotal sets versus Rick and Markoto. Grouchy seems like he's been pretty good on the weeklies. He did lose pretty much in Cheese Master, but Cheese Master might just be different. And then, Hop, he's getting it done on Pack 1. Again, we're not looking into the future, even though he did win, but we'll talk about that and account for that next week versus Guitar. But yeah, I mean, it's a good, good start for them. They beat Super Auto Rangers, who is another good team. And they won a pivotal one versus 100 Geckos. You got to beat the teams that, might be a little bit weaker. You still can, can't lose. So, good team, solid results. It would feel wrong to put this team below Super Auto Rangers because of, based on results. But yeah, this is a good team, and I could definitely see this team, just like how they are right now. Remember, this is the conference favorites tier, and right now they're second in the conference. So, we'll see how they go moving forward. Coming in at 6, this is Seats of Our Pants, the top of B. This is Knob's team. A team that, everybody kind of knew going in they were going to scale. I think they've scaled earlier than expected for most people. Starting off 2-0 with a team like this where, the main appeal is they're going to grind and get better. I think winning 2-0 is a great start for this team. Can't put them at A because I do think they have a little less, firepower than some other teams. They still have some question marks. Some more than the teams that are in A, but still a great team. Top of B for a reason. And yeah, I mean, they're just a good team. Rex has outperformed his expectations so far. Knob won, he didn't look amazing in the factory set, but he's been doing better lately. And he also beat X-Drive, which is nice. Pranker beat Geo, and Geo has a pretty solid Pack 4, so Pranker winning that Pack 4 is nice. He's been grinding it. He seems like he's going to be a good Pack 4 player. Geomer beat Scooty Fan this week. He also, I think, did very good in the weekly brawl, so we'll see how he does going forward in the weeklies. And yeah, I think that's a very very good team. Worth noting, I think it's also a very smart mix-up this week from Knob's team to go Rex on Pack 2. I think for teams, especially if you have a winning record and are kind of trying to prep yourself for playoffs and stuff, you need to make sure you have some mix-ups and you aren't just in the same teams, the same lineups every week, because eventually it's gonna be exploitable. So you want to give a couple different looks, even if you have one that in the back of your mind you're probably gonna go to if you need to win a week. It's nice making it to where the other team has to kind of predict what you're gonna do, and it's not super easy to counter and get the value treats in all the spots. So, we'll see moving forward. This will also be very important to see where Knob is at with Knob versus Bleb. Very, very interesting spot there. But yeah, they're 2-0. They've beaten 2 teams that are pretty solid. A team that I think is really good, and a team I think is solid. So 2 good wins. They have people who are getting better and scaling, and yeah, I mean not much more I can say. Just a little less established than I think the teams above them are. So yeah. Coming in at 5, Ben Kai over. This is team 2-0. Good team. They moved down one spot. I don't think they won the weekend move down, but again, they're still an A tier, and I don't think it has much to do with them moving down as another team moving up. So I don't think they're worse than they were before by any means. I mean, they're just a good team. I mean, they have Kai, who's obviously he's one the best player in the world probably. He can move around all the different packs and win on any pack on any given time, which is super useful. Couple question marks. Some got cleared up this week with a big Bleb win on Pack 2. I was one that was very surprised that they went back to Bleb on Pack 2 after Bleb got like annihilated against X-Ray, but Bleb turned it around. Bleb again being one of the most questionable. No evidence, I guess I should say. Like how do you describe what Bleb does? Bleb loses 4-0 to X-Ray on pack 2 and then beats Ekme 4-0 on pack 2. I just don't understand. It's such a mystery, but whatever. Nice win for Bleb. And it does clear up some things for sure. Then still some question marks for sure. Goose has got some nice wins. We'll see if he can continue doing that on the weekly. Seems like he's a weekly enjoyer though, so maybe he'll continue to do well. New Skills is a great win for them. We'll see how Nelson does again. He got pretty high rolled on in week 2 again on pack 3, so if he ends up going back to it, we'll see where he's at. Nelson, he seems like he's been moved as a flex spot a lot this week, a lot through the season. Pack 1 week 1, pack 3 week 2, and looks like he's gonna be on pack 4 here. So Nelson's gonna, the season probably will come a lot down to Nelson winning a lot of the other packs and being good. Goose continuing to do well on the weekly, and Ambo picking up sets on 1 and 3 when needed. But yeah, overall, just pretty solid team. They have a lot of people who are good. They don't really have a super big weak link, even though they definitely have some weaker spots in times. But it's a pretty good team overall, I think. Coming in 4th, 100 Echoes. They went up 1 spot. This flip-flopped them. 2-0, of course, this is my team. I try to be as unbiased as possible, of course. So, a couple things. So far, good results. They've won a lot of their sets. Or, I guess I should probably not talk in third person, but we've won a lot of our sets. So here's the thing, right? I think that this is a good team, but there's a couple reasons why they can't be higher. Reason 1, I love Sincere, but I gotta keep saying it. He's the last pick on the draft for a reason. I think we are trying to utilize him as best as possible in the spots to help us win the weeks. But it's gonna be tough when Sincere is gonna be looked at as an underdog against most people. But I think we have a very strong top 4. I think me, Echo, Mav, and Flynn can all win against other people. On any given day. I think Echo is a good pack 1 player. I think my other packs are serviceable enough to work around, and Flame has done very well in the weekly so far. Couple question marks for sure, which is why I can't have this team any higher. Question mark number 1, is Flame going to continue to do super good on the weekly? I have faith in Flame. I think he's a great learner. I think he's a great grinder. But again, he hasn't really had to play super strong competition yet. Casil's not horrible, but we've seen in the past where he has struggled. So, Casil's not bad, but it's not like top tier competition. Again, this week will be a very good test to see how he does versus Bubble Bat. Question mark number 2, can Sincere grind and get good enough to become a very serviceable player and beat some of the other bottom seeds, like a 4 or 5 seed? Mav is always going to be a question mark. And it kind of comes into my packs. The other critique people could say about this team is if we just look at it, we have played, in my opinion, the worst 2 teams so far in the league. But again, you can only play who's in front of you, so we have had an easier schedule to start. Admittedly, we are in a weaker conference, admittedly. So those are the critiques you could say, but I think we have a very strong top 4. I think that we have some of the best 4-man depth in any of the league. But we do have also Sincere, who right now I think is just a little bit outclassed. But we'll see moving forward. So yeah. Coming in at 3rd is Monkey Business. A lot of people probably surprised that I put a 1-1 team this high. There's a couple reasons I did this. One, still a very disgusting team on paper. I mean, there's nobody can deny that this team on paper is really good. And I'm not going to change my opinion too much on how good they are because, this week kind of came down to a weekly game 5, game 7, where Breeding Letter did lose. But I think it's without a reason of doubt, I think if Breeding Letter wins the last game, then the team is, in first. So I think it's still a good team. And even though they lost a week, I think that they're still very good. They have a lot of depth. I think Oned is a great Pack 1 mirror player. I think Monkey's one of the best Pack 3 mirror players. Venus is looking a little bit more questionable. We'll talk about Venus next week a little bit more. because I do have some interesting thoughts on this week's matchups from Monkey's team. So we'll see how that goes, and that will determine some things. I don't want to talk too much about that, but my worry more about this team is some egos might be getting in the way here. But we'll discuss that next week, more so because that's kind of jumping ahead. So I think it's still a good team. I think Chum has had some interesting results. I think Sop is not a bad Pack 2 player. He played Beast week 1, and Beast has not done very good on Pack 2. So we'll see what Chum does on Pack 2 versus somebody like Ethan. Can he destroy Ethan after Ethan also beat Beast? This will be an interesting test for both these players. So yeah, just a good team on paper still. I think their main lineup, which is this lineup, has some strength. And a lot of the time, it's probably going to come down to if Venus wins. Because, the weeklies can go either way. I think Onan is good. I think Monkey is good. And, Chum is probably going to be in some weird spots, especially because he is a Pack 2 main and maybe could be exploitable moving forward. Also worth noting that this week they did do the thing that I've been talking about where you really like to mix it up. But I don't know if this is the week they should have mixed it up. But again, we'll get into that next week. Coming in second, may the Pack Force be with you. Moved up 5 spots, 2-0 team. And this is they've only played 9 of their 10 sets. But again, I don't think it changes too much here. So far they've just done really good. They've played, they beat Dune's team pretty handedly. Actually, not really. This could have gone either way. But there's a couple of reasons why I had this team super high. Here are the reasons. One, I think Saber is a great Pack 1 mirror player. I've played Saber a good amount, and I honestly think he's just really good. I think he'll show that too. I'm very interested why they, why this team kind of matched up really awkwardly into this team. But yeah, I think Saber's a good Pack 1 mirror player. Ethan got a nice win, we'll see how he does moving forward. Again, next week will be a big test, because maybe Beast Pack 2 is just bad. But OG got a win first week. He's still kind of a question mark, but either way, we haven't really had a lot of. I would like to see how this goes before I make any broad opinions on him. Rubyhan getting a win over Fluffo in Pack 4 is really another reason why I put the team so high. I mean, Rubyhan winning that, if he could be a real threat on Pack 4, I think Fluffo is one of the best 4 mirror players. And if Rubyhan becomes a 4 mirror player, that's super good. I mean, that's a tough team to beat. Like if you have Saber, Rubyhan, and Owl all dominating 1-4 in weekly, I mean it's gonna be hard to beat them. One question mark is when Unicorn Pack does come out, is this team gonna be prepped for it? I'm sure it'll probably be fine because Owl is very good at adapting, plays all the packs, but maybe that could be a critique. But I think still I think it's a good team. I think I trust in most of their players on their packs, and with these results, they beat a team that I think is still good. I still think Windermere is good, and they just dominated them. So I think this is a very deserved spot. It could even maybe be argued that they could be in one. Then my number 1 team means to BC God. They were in second and up 1 spot. Of course, the first. This is Amza's team. I mean, to me, this team is just so disgusting still. Especially because, Snixter has, he took XWB all the way, then he beat Pigs United, which is nice. So if Snixter is going to actually be able to win sets this season, that's going to be huge for this team. Amza is still a good player. He's a good Pack 2 player. Anon, I think, is one of the best multi-pack players, can play every pack at a good level. And Phoenix has done very good on the weekly so far. He hasn't had any, super strong competition yet. So, we'll be able to see, this week is a huge test for Phoenix. But, I think it's just a good team. Simi's had her struggles, I'm a little worried about Simi. One of the reasons I maybe hesitated a little bit, because, this might come down to Snixter and Simi winning crucial sets, so I'm a little worried about that. But, I think if they utilize their players correctly, and if they keep doing matchups well, I know Amza is a little against going for optimal matchups. He likes going for, everybody, kind of having a fighting chance, even if maybe they aren't the correct plays. I know he was saying on his stream that he was very against this play, but they talked him into it. So, Hopefully, Amza doesn't get held back by captaining issues, but I think he will be fine. I think at the end of the day, Amzo still wants to win, and he'll make the right call. Um, so I think it's just a good team. They are deep, and yeah, I think having a lot of matchup flexibility, a lot of good players. I think they're just a good team. They have started off good. Critiquing into them, maybe you can argue these are two of the weaker teams in the conference, and they could have lost the sets. But I think they've done very well, and I just think they're a good team. So overall, the D tier we have Pike's team 0-2, stayed the same. Morkoto's team 0-2, they went down a spot. They're in 17th. Dune's team they went down 2 spots. They're in 16th. Equi's team went down, or sorry, they stayed the same. They were in 15th last week, 15th this week, 0-2. Then C tier we have Here's team 0-2. They've had a rough start. I think they can bounce back though. 13th we have a Citizens team. 1-1. They went down 7 spots. Again, it's not as bad as it looks because they went down 7 spots, but I think they are still they're not a horrible team, and the spots in the first week are very close. In 12th we have Geo's team 0-2. Team I think is really good on paper, just has not gotten the results that they would like yet. 11th is Karma's Kittens 1-1. Moved up 6 spots. Good win this week over the number 1 rated team. Number 10 is Injured Capybara 1-1. Moved up 3 spots. Then 100 Geckos 1-1. Moved down a spot. Then in B tier, Super Auto Rangers 1-1. Moved down 5 spots. One of the bigger drops. One of the biggest jumps in 7th is Flip's team 2-0. They're doing very well. Won some crucial sets. 6th is Knob's team 2-0. Moved up 5 spots. And then A tier, we have been Kyogre, moved down a spot, 2-0. 100 Echoes. And then 4th, 2-0, moved up a spot. One of the only teams that are 7-3. We'll see how this set goes. And 3rd, Monkey Business, 1-1, 5-5. Moved down 2 spots. Had a rough loss, but I think they're still very good on paper. Number 2, we have Rubyhan's team, 2-0. Just dominating so far, done really well. And then the number 1, we have Amza's team at 2-0. So that is my week 2 recap, and I will be back next week again to do more power rankings and to cover what happened in week 3.